I took some days off to stay away from social media, to stay away from really getting into this too quickly because I had to process things on my own. Johnny and I were very good friends at 8 years of a friendship. So I've processed it as much as I can. I've had an intense amount of support from my friends, my family. But then, you know, through this process, I've been kind of scrap writing what I need to put together to say for him, to stand up for him, and to start speaking out with his voice. I met Johnny through work. I met him about 8 years ago working at a club in Hollywood. He was a bartender. I was a bottle service girl at the time. And he just instantly, you know, you meet your coworkers, and your coworkers become your family because you spend a lot of time with them, sometimes more than your own family. Especially we have like late night hours. We have, you know, we're in hospitality, we're in entertainment. So when I first met Johnny, I didn't expect the type of person that he delivered to me. He was just so genuine. He treated you like a close friend within minutes of knowing him. So yeah, my friendship developed with him there, and then we always stayed in touch after that job, and then we started our new job in level 8 together. Unexpectedly, I just had him come up behind me, and I heard Anita Bonita over my shoulder, really, in his little country slang that he likes to do. And I turned around to see these big blue eyes, and it was just this immediate like rebonding. From there forward, we were working Friday and Saturday together, and it wasn't like any time passed at all. He was magnetic. It was like literally impossible to be in the same room with him and either like dislike him or feel disliked by him, or, you know, he made every single person in that room feel good about themselves and also about talking and being able to just like be around and converse with him. Like he had this natural ability to just be the most kind and inviting person. I was obviously with the detectives and the police during the whole incident, and I stayed at the scene until 9 a.m. just making sure everybody had what they needed from me. And when I came home, I tried to take a small nap and just knock myself out for a couple hours because I was, you know, dealing with this. And then I woke up to her call, and I didn't have her number yet, but her call was like Scarlett, or when I answered it, she said, "This is Johnny's mom." And immediately I jumped out of bed, and she's been just like incredibly sweet and motherly towards me. She's just grateful that he wasn't alone and that I was with him, somebody who cared about him, somebody who, you know, knew who he was, like inside and out. So it's been a comfort for both her and I, and I'm sure the rest of his family as well. But she's been very, very just kind and outreaching towards me as well. There's a massive hole in their hearts, as Scarlett has described to me. She's like, it's not, you know, replaceable, obviously, but his younger brother, I heard, is very, very close with him and is going through a difficult time with this as well. But I mean, every single person who, in his family especially, there's no comparison. Everyone is so sorrowful for him leaving so soon. Just the massive amount of support that his family is getting from his friends, his coworkers, his star coworkers. I'm going to South Carolina to go visit my family as well, who recently just ironically moved there last year. We're gonna meet up and we're gonna have some big hugs, and I have expressed my desire to be there for them as much as possible, as much as they want me to be. And she's really brought me in as just like, yes, come, you know, be with us. I'm grateful for that connection. So we have different times that people come in for shifts. We have openers and stuff like that. And Johnny came in about like an hour after me. So I'd already parked. I only recently started parking on the streets because it's expensive to park around there. He ironically parked right in front of me. We left that night after working, and our bar manager was out of town, so Johnny was being very meticulous to make sure everything was perfect, everything was clean. We have a very strict policy about our cleaning afterwards and stuff like that. So we stayed later until about 3:15, and my manager and my coworkers and Johnny and I walked out together. We went down an elevator. I was walking down the street down Pico with Johnny and two other men, guys, you know, they're all fit and strong. So I literally had no worries. It was just the end of the night. We're doing the same thing we always do. We walked to the end of Pico and Hope and then said goodbye to our buddies, and they walked straight, and Johnny and I turned left to go down Hope, and that's when we realized that our cars were right next to each other. So he's like, oh, I'm right here too. And then we saw his car on an angle and realized that it was being lifted by a jack. So initially we thought it was a tow company or something, even though we didn't, you know, everything's happening quickly at that point where we're just laughing and talking, and then we turn and, oh, something's up with the car, and then your brain switches to uh-oh mode. He was like, oh no, like he kind of said to me, he's like, oh no, I'm getting towed. And then we both went forward like, oh, like we're gonna protect this situation. So we did that. We stepped down into the street between the two cars, and as soon as we did that, we see a man stand up by his driver's side, and he had a ski mask on and a big jack underneath the car. Immediately we realized, we were like, oh, this isn't good. This isn't what we thought it was. But Johnny kept his peace. We were both saying things like, hey man, like what are you doing? And we were both articulating that way, but there was no communication from the men in the vehicle. So I'm behind Johnny, and he was right before me. As we stepped off the curb, he stepped in front of me, and I was standing at the back of the car, and immediately, just with Johnny taking one step forward, immediately we just hear a shot. Didn't quite register at the time until, again, these are the milliseconds. Johnny came falling backwards towards me, and I just grabbed his shoulders at that point. It was all natural. There's a lot of stuff going around of you know, he lunged in front, and you know, he's a hero, and I will give him hero credit for the rest of my life. But there was no time for actual thought in the way that this happened so quickly. Johnny stepped down with me into the street from the curb, and he kind of motioned his hand like this, like kind of stay back, you know, and he was in the front. But there was just a moment of time of him stepping forward to just peacefully confront these guys, and they just shot him straight away. Police asked me during our talks after the incident in the street, they were like, was there confrontation? Was there a fist fight? But Johnny literally was just approaching them like with his hands out. He had a white button-down shirt with a black vest. He looked very professional. It wasn't like he was any kind of threat or looked dangerous. It was just an immediate reaction by these men with a careless mind of not caring what happened to him. You know, it was just, they reacted and they jumped in the car and they took off. Neither of us were thinking that this is where it was going to lead. We didn't really think we were in initial danger at that point when we first saw them. It was nerve-wracking, but it wasn't like, oh man, we gotta back off. It was just like, we're trying to tell them to get out of there. So when the shot rang off, it just, my brain didn't really comprehend it fast enough to the point where his body was in my arms, and then we're falling backwards. And so I just asked him, I was like, honey, are you okay? Because I didn't know if they shoved him or something like that. And he just said, nope, shot. And he continued falling backwards with me trying to collect him. But yeah, I definitely didn't, this whole time frame is so fast, and I don't think a lot of people understand that, where they're like, you know, these details and you know, what did you think? And I'm like, there's no thinking process. It's like immediate response. My initial immediate response from hearing the gunshot was, okay, maybe it's a shoulder, maybe it's a leg, maybe it's like I'm gonna have to do something now to help him. I was not expecting it to be such a fatal shot. So once we went to the ground, I realized I had blood all over my hands, and I opened up his shirt and it was in his chest. And that's when I realized that this was far beyond my control. He was shot directly in the chest. I haven't heard from any official news, but I believe it completely just ruptured his lung, because he was really struggling to, he couldn't communicate with me after that. He was really struggling to gasp for air, and to, his eyes were rolling back. He was trying to gain his consciousness. And I was screaming at him, saying, "Johnny, stay with me, stay with me." And I was pulling his torso up so that he could, try to elongate his chest. And as I'm screaming for help, there's literally no one in the streets at that time. One of our security guards was crossing the street, and he called 911 and ran over to us immediately. Over the 911 call, he was trying to do CPR, and we wrapped my denim jacket around his chest to tie it off and try to restrict the bleeding. I mean, I had him right in my arms, and he just was not responsive at that point. He was kind of like rocking his body, and then he would do short gasps, and that was all he was able to do. There was like little moments where he would kind of have a harder gasp, and like almost like he's waking up, and then he would just slip right back out. I am quite certain he passed in my arms, because as soon as the ambulance arrived, they had me get up to let the paramedics work on him, but they're not, from what I've heard, they're not allowed to presume him deaf like on the scene. They have to do it either in the ambulance or the hospital. But as I laid him to the ground for them to work on him, his lips went white, and he lost any kind of tension in his body, just released. The detective has been in contact with me. There was a lead about robberies around that area at the same time prior to this. Hopefully we find out if it's the same guys. I don't know. I can't really speak on that. But I do have faith in our detective, Mr. Gonzalez, and he's feeling very heart-wrenched about this as well, just because he's really paid attention to the story, and obviously he heard my telling of it that morning. And he's been assuring to me many times that he's brought more people onto this case than normally would be, just to try to help him figure this out and get it done. But I do have faith in the policemen and the detectives that are on the case. One of Johnny's close friends, Micah, has been posting about this a lot, and he and I have been in communication, and he's been really great and adamant about just getting this to the source that needs to fix it. He's been reaching out to like political parties and stuff like that. So yeah, this call to action was created by him and Johnny's friends to basically flood the phone lines of politicians and our leaders in the city, and just try to, make a point and try to get change happening. It's been kind of healing for me too, I'm sure for them as well, but it's been healing for us all to, as strangers, come together because of this one person. Everyone is just like, my recollection of him and his nature and his character is the same exact of what his friends of 10 years or 10 minutes have been, Obviously Johnny had fans, and he had a line of work with film and stuff like that. It's coming from all directions. I didn't really know that side of him so much. I knew him on the personal side more, and his friends have been just really, we're all very, very distraught and angry about this, but we want the best outcome for Johnny. The conviction of these guys, leading forward, the actions to come afterwards to make this not happen again. A lot is being organized and taken care of, and we're going to do a run for him June 15th tentatively in North Hollywood Park, where he used to run on his daily run. And there's going to be some stuff to come for sure, and we're going to be posting about it. We're going to be putting it out there for the public. We'll be doing memorials here for him in LA. His family is in South Carolina, so there's going to be memorials in both. But yeah, he has a whole team behind him. We don't have anything official yet. The main concern for his family was getting him physically back to them so that they can put him to rest. Thankfully, that process has been sped up, and that's going to be happening soon. It's going to be step by step for them. It's going to be getting him home, dealing with that as far as their emotions and their process, and then having a service for him in South Carolina. And then after that, we'll do something in LA. he had this thing about him that just made him so easy to love. I always felt good looking at my schedule and be like, oh, cool, Johnny's working with me tonight. Because it was almost like, if Johnny's working, it's all good. You know, you're taken care of, you're good, you're solid, you're gonna have fun, but you're also gonna, you know, do the best you can do. His easy ability, I mean, it was admirable because, you know, a lot of people struggle with like their social issues, and he just was able to be exactly himself in any kind of circumstance, any situation, and make every single person in the room, no matter who they were, what they meant to him or whatever, make them feel so special and so seen and so like just worthy of his presence. And just keep spreading his love, like keep spreading who Johnny was. I've had so many people reach out and just say something about their account with him, and you know, he would respond to his fans as much as possible, and he would stay in contact with them. He would send, you know, get well videos to them, and just, he was very interactive and very loving, and that's just exactly who he was. It wasn't something to build his own fame or something like that. It was just genuine. And I think that his legacy will just be the impact that he has directly put on people. Again, whether it was moments in time or whether it was years in time, or however long he spent with people, everyone has been impacted by him. Anyone who met him or even watched him, yeah, this is something that really, really hit the bottom of people's hearts.